Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. And it is Saturday, which means it's time for another Saturday Shelfie, our third installment of this rip-roaring adventure through my bookshelves. Anyway, yes, so we're moving on to the third shelf, and if you remember, I did say that of course there's no rhyme or reason to the way these are organized, so it's quite eclectic. Yeah, well, I hope you enjoy it. There's some good ones in there, I think. Certainly ones with a few memories anyway. So let's start off with the first one. The first one is a children's book, and it's a children's history book, and it's the Children's Book of Doomsday England. And this was a book I would have got sometime in the mid 1980s. When I visited an open-air museum, I can't remember the name of it, on some family holiday when we were back in the UK. And yeah, this was bought for me as a kind of guide to the Doomsday Book. And it's just, it's a typical kind of kids book, and it's got some nice illustrations in there, and lots of pictures, one showing how the monks, of course, wrote out the Doomsday Book and all the information. Of course, the Doomsday Book, for those who don't know, was a book that recorded everything. It was like a census, really, that the Norman invaders did. So William the Conqueror wanted to know everybody's assets, all the households, what people had. So of course he could tax them. So yeah. It's a nice book, and actually it's in really good condition considering I've had it so long. I mean, I've had it over 30 years definitely. So yeah, a couple of these you may have seen before because they're quite recent acquisitions. So I won't spend too long on them because they've been in other videos. The second one is one I'm really looking forward to getting to at some point, at least to dip in and out of. I'm not sure if it's a cover-to-cover read, but that's Vincent van Gogh, A Life in Letters. And it's a beautiful book. If you could feel the dust jacket, it's got a lovely texture to it, and of course it also has some illustrations and things showing his paintings, but it's just 10 years of correspondence between Vincent and Theo van Gogh, the two brothers. So yeah, I think it's going to be quite a nice one. The next one I've also had for a very long time, is this one here, and it's a little hardback book of war stories, and actually it was given to me in 1988 by my grandmother because she always wrote inscriptions inside books when she gave them to me, and it's just a collection of war stories from other books, maybe I guess a kind of Reader's Digest for kids showing war stories. So for example, there's excerpts in here from The Silver Sword by Ian Serelier. What's his name? I can't remember. Ian Serelier. You can see in the contents there's all the different types of things that are in this book, and yeah, so there's some lovely illustrations, and they're just really excerpts of different war stories, which of course I really enjoyed when I was a small boy, and I don't mind it now, even though I'm a big boy. So there you go. Next I have a book which I don't think I've read yet, which is The Tribes of Britain, and it's basically looking at who the British are, breaking them down to their individual components, the English, I guess British Isles, the English, the Irish, the Scots, and the Welsh. And it just kind of looks at them culturally as well as scientifically through DNA and things like that. So I think it looks quite interesting. Who are the English, the Irish, the Scots, and the Welsh? A rag bag of migrants reflecting thousands of years of continuity and change. Now scientific techniques can explore this complex genetic jigsaw: ancient Britons and Saxons, Celts and Romans, Vikings and Normans, and the more recent migrations which have created these multicultural islands. So I think that would be quite good, actually. I should try and get to that at some point. Okay, the next one is this one here, Forgotten Armies, Britain's Asian Empire and the War with Japan. And this is because the armies fighting against the Japanese in the Far East tended to be forgotten in the wider war. Most people concentrated on the European theatre in North Africa, and of course the Eastern Front as well, and they look at it, but at the time a lot of things were, or these people were regarded as quite forgotten in England. And you know, my grandfather was one of them, so it's yeah, it's another reason why I have an interest in this, but also because I lived in Japan for a few years, and of course it also has some photographs and things like that. So yes, it looks at the war in the Far East from the British perspective. Okay, the next one is one that I got fairly recently, and it's just a collection of novels by Bruce Chatwin. It's got 3 novels in here. It's got On Black Hill, it's got Uts, and it's got The Viceroy of Ouida. I haven't read it yet, but I really want to. In fact, it was one I wanted to get to this summer, but there's still time, although I've got quite a lot on over the next few weeks. The next one is the new Penguin Russian course, complete course for beginners. I wanted to try and learn Russian. That was before I moved to the Czech Republic. I haven't learnt very much of this, but there are a few similarities between Russian and Czech. Sometimes I pick out the odd word. If I watch a film that's in Russian, I think, oh yeah, that sounds the same in Czech, but they can have different meanings. So they might have the same word, like, or krasny is beautiful in Czech, but red in Russian. And there's a nice joke about that in the Czech film Kolya, Oscar-winning film, if you haven't seen that. And it's just joking about the fact that there's a boy that comes to, a Russian boy that lives with an older Czech man, and it's set during the days of communism, and they have to put out the Russian flags, and the boy says something like krasny, krasny, and the boy's saying, you know, it's red, but in Czech the man thinks of it as it's beautiful, but because it's like the Soviet flag, he's like, no, it isn't, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I would like to get to that someday. I think it would be interesting to learn to read some Russian and speak a little bit of Russian. Right, the next one is Christopher Isherwood's The Berlin Novels. It has Mr. Norris Changes Trains and Goodbye to Berlin in there. I've read Goodbye to Berlin. I haven't read Mr. Norris Changes Trains, but I would really like to at some point. We have a scientific book here, The Earth, An Intimate History by Richard Forte. I've read his autobiography. I can't remember the name of it, but it's something about the room, something or other in the British Museum. And he's a really nice writer. And I think I have read one called Life as well, but I haven't read this one yet. So it will be just kind of a history of our planet. And of course it has lots of you know, nice pictures and trilobites, which he's quite famous for, so I think it'd be also quite nice. The next book I bought in Japan, actually, when I was living in there. No, I didn't. I tell a lie, I bought it in Hong Kong. And it is The Story of Mankind by Hendrik Willem van Loon. And it is just a kind of one-volume history of human history, really. And it's just got like these little drawings, and it's split up into different sections. It's a little bit like E.H. Gombrich's Short History of the World, if that's the right title. And that's probably why I bought it after I read that. But it's a nice little book. It's a bit dated now, of course. I think it was written back in the 1920s or something. So, but it's a nice thing to have. Okay, moving along, I have Václav Havel, Living in Truth, and it is just kind of looking at his struggles as a writer under communism, and how he had to go through his beliefs, stick to his beliefs rather, when things were looking quite difficult. I haven't read it cover to cover, I've dipped in and out of it, but yeah, I really should do. He's a very interesting person, and of course a national hero here in the Czech Republic. Sticking with the Czech theme, there's a really nice book here that I can really recommend to you called The Glass Room by Simon Mauer, and it's a fictionalized version of the story of the Villa Tugendhat, which is in Brno in Moravia, and it was a fantastic and modern and revolutionary architectural house that was built, mostly kind of made of glass. You might have seen it, certainly it's worth looking at, and it's a big popular attraction in Brno. And it's the story of a Jewish family who had it built for their wedding, and then of course the Germans come and it throws their life upside down, and it kind of follows, it jumps back and forth in time and stuff, but it's a really nice and interesting story. I would really recommend that to anybody. The next one has appeared on my channel before. In fact, I think it was the second video I ever did, and it's Ancestors by Frank Ching, which is a fantastic personal history of China told through Frank Ching's own ancestors, the Qing clan, and he has all sorts of fascinating and interesting ancestors. It's almost 1,000 years of history of his family, but at the same time it's also a history of China, and I would really recommend it to anyone interested in family history or China, or just a really good non-fiction read. Okay, the next four are, part of this little series. I actually have, I think, 5 of them. I don't know where the 5th one is. The Ascent of Rumdoodle, which I talked about fairly recently. They're all part of this Vintage Voyages series. A concise Chinese-English dictionary for lovers, which is about a Chinese woman who goes to study English in London, which I haven't read yet. In Patagonia by Bruce Chatwin, which I haven't read yet, but I really would like to. And Blood River by Tim Butcher, which also I haven't read yet, but I really want to, which is looking at conflict and things in, I think, the Congo in Africa. These are quite recent acquisitions. I have read this one. I read it for my English team in the Reading Europe 2021 challenge, but the rest I haven't. But as I said, they're fairly recent acquisitions there. Okay, another Czech one, and that's Bohumil Hrabal's I Serve the King of England, which I thought Steve hadn't have read, but of course it is a very popular book and he had read it, so egg was on my face in that one. But it's a really good story, kind of fictionalized memoir of this boy starting out in the First Republic of Czechoslovakia, so the period between the two world wars. It's quite funny and good. The next one is by Jorge Luis Borges, and it's the Book of Imaginary Beings, which I have yet to read, but I certainly would like to read soon. Okay. Move over to Japan this time, and it's 69 by Ryumi Murakami, and it's also kind of a memoir of the 60s, the year of student protests and things like that. And yeah, it's a pretty nice book. It's very thin, but it's interesting. It's kind of, I'm trying to remember, it's many years ago since I read it, but it's got like a lot of musical references and things like that in it. Okay. Almost at the end, I have this nice one here, which is Schott's original Miscellany, and it's just a book of facts and figures, things like, English monarchs, different telephone prefixes, the dates of British and results of British post-war general elections, and all sorts of interesting things. It's a little out of date now, but it's still a nice thing to have around. The next one is Every Frenchman Has One, and it's a book by the actress Olivia de Havilland, who was in Gone with the Wind and many other films, and who sadly passed away, I think it was last year, at the age of 104, I think, 103. So it's quite incredible, really. And it's a funny book, a funny little book about her time living in Paris in I think it's the 50s and 60s, if I remember rightly. Okay, and the last one is a bit similar to Schott's original Miscellany, which is, I've still got the price on it, which is the Pocket Dangerous Book for Boys, and it's kind of got the old Boys Own cover on it, and it's got that kind of fake marbling that used to be in these types of books, and it's just a collection of all sorts of things that boys should know, for example, different national anthems, 12 tables of Roman law, how to make marbling paper, the laws of cricket, famous battles, the Ten Commandments, understanding English grammar, tales like from history, like I suppose the British Empire there, and then important battles, as I've already mentioned, like rugby league shirt numbers, what else? Yeah, as I said, like grammar, English grammar. There's also a collection of little things how to remember the kings of England. So, for example, something like Willie, Willie, Harry, Steve, Harry, Dick, John, Harry 3, Edward 1, 2, 3, Dick 2, Henry 4, 5, 6, then who? Edward 4, 5, Dick the Bad, Harry's Twain and Ned the Lad, Mary, Bessie, James, you can, Charlie, Charlie, James again, William and Mary, Anne of Gloria, George's 4, Will 4, Victoria, Edward 7, Georgie 5, Edward, George, and Liz alive. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend, and thanks again. All right. Bye-bye.